think being a prison guard, especially in a maximum security facility, would be relatively safe. Sure, you're surrounded by violent criminals every day, but they're prisoners. Their movements are controlled. They're under constant watch. The guards have security measures in place. The reality is, working as a prison guard is just as dangerous as any other high-risk job, maybe even more. Prison riots happen, inmates take advantage of opportunities, and sometimes crimes unfold behind bars that are just as brutal as anything happening on the outside. Today's case takes us into that world. This is the story of Donna Payant, the first female correctional officer in U.S. history to be murdered while on duty. Clinton County, New York, the kind of place where working in the prison system is almost inevitable. The area is home to Clinton Correctional Facility. For generations, families have made their living as prison guards. Donna Payant was no exception. She came from a family of correctional officers. Her father, her uncle, her cousins, they were all in the field. When she got older, she married a prison guard, and when it came time for her to work, she followed the same path. Her husband, Leo, hated the idea. He knew how dangerous the job was. He saw it every day, and he begged her to consider doing literally anything else. But Donna was determined. I have to work, she told him. Why should I work for $7,000 or $8,000 a year when I can double that? So reluctantly, Leo gave in. But secretly, he was hoping she wouldn't pass the exams. When she did it, he hoped she wouldn't make it through training. And at first, it seemed like she would. Just 6 days into the program, Donna walked out. Late one night, while she was asleep in her dorm at the training academy, a male supervisor entered her room, uninvited. He stood there silently for a few minutes. Then he walked out. This was the breaking point. The instructors had already been using obscene language and treating the trainees like they were in a military boot camp. Having a staff member enter her room at night was enough for Donna to quit and file a lawsuit. Eventually, the department apologized, and Donna dropped the suit. She returned to training a few months later. By then, the 6-week program had been cut down to just 3 weeks due to budget issues. When she graduated, she was not assigned to Clinton Correctional Facility where her husband worked. Instead, she was sent 5 hours away to Green Haven Correctional Facility, one of the most dangerous prisons in the country. Within 3 weeks, she was dead. Green Haven was home to over 1,800 inmates, including more than 500 convicted murderers. It was overcrowded, violent, and about as high risk as a prison could get. Even more challenging for Donna was the fact that it was 5 hours from home. Every week, she was forced to live away from her husband and 3 kids. She rented temporary housing near the prison and only got to see her family on weekends. It's hard not to think that this assignment wasn't punitive in some way. Was the correctional department sending her a message? Was this their way of retaliating for the lawsuit she had filed during training? Maybe. But Donna wasn't the type to back down. She wanted to be a guard. She chose this life. And she assumed that, after a short time at Green Haven, she'd be transferred to Clinton and be back home with her family. She never got that chance. Friday, May 15th, 1981, started out like any other workday for Donna Payant. She arrived at Green Haven Correctional Facility, checked in through the front gate, punched her time card, headed to the lineup room for her daily assignment. At this point, she had only been working there for 3 weeks. That day, Sergeant Lee Stowe assigned her to the yard, a post she had worked before. Her job was simple: supervise inmates from cell blocks A and B alongside another officer until the yard closed at 4 p.m. After getting her assignment, Donna walked to the arsenal to pick up her portable alarm, basically a panic button she could carry in case of emergencies. She then made her way through a long corridor with windows overlooking the yard, where inmates were lifting weights, jogging, and walking laps. Before she stepped outside, another female guard stopped her, saying, "There's a guy on the other end asking to speak with you." She handed Donna a phone. Donna put the receiver to her ear, covered her other ear to block out noise, and listened. When the call ended, she turned to the nearest officer, handed over her portable alarm and keys, and said, annoyed, "I'll be back in a few minutes." Then she walked off. And that was the last time anyone saw her. Hours passed. At evening roll call, Donna still hadn't checked in. The officer stationed in the yard reported that she had never shown up for her post that afternoon. This was when people finally started to realize something was wrong. A lockdown was ordered. All 1,800 inmates were locked in their cells while guards searched the prison top to bottom. They checked individual cells, offices, storage closets, every possible hiding place. But Donna was nowhere. 7 p.m., Captain Francis DeFrancesco, head of the Bureau of Criminal Investigations, got a call at home. One of the female guards at Green Haven is missing. The captain immediately authorized the use of search dogs. A team of bloodhounds were brought into the prison and led through the facility. They followed Donna's scent to the dumping area, and that's where the trail ended. There was no sign of her until the next morning. The following day, a bulldozer was moving trash around the local dump, including garbage from Green Haven. That's when workers noticed something. A black plastic garbage bag had broken open, spilling out a mangled human body. Authorities were called immediately, and soon the body was identified. It was Donna Payant. She had just become the first female correctional officer in U.S. history to be murdered on duty. Right away, investigators had questions. How does a prison guard inside a maximum security facility get attacked, murdered, and disposed of without anyone noticing? How does her body get placed in a 55-gallon prison trash bin, dumped into a garbage truck, taken to a landfill, compacted, and flattened by a bulldozer without anyone realizing what happened? It didn't make sense, and it only got worse. Donna's body had been brutalized. The medical examiner determined that she had been bound, raped, strangled to death. She was still tied up when they found her. And there was something else. She had bite marks, multiple ones across her body. This was not a simple cover-up or an act of revenge. Whoever did this had enjoyed it. This was about violence, about control, about power. And investigators now had 1,800 potential suspects. The investigation was going to be a nightmare to solve. For starters, many of the inmates refused to talk, because in prison, being a snitch can get you killed. Even though all 1,800 inmates had been locked in their cells after Donna went missing, there was no record of where most of them had been before the lockdown. Plus, that afternoon, there had been a revival meeting in the gym, which had thrown off the usual prison schedule. At the same time, a group of new hires was being trained. To make things even more confusing, some of these new guards looked like Donna. So at first, investigators couldn't tell who had actually seen Donna that day and who had mistaken her for someone else. But eventually they confirmed the last time Donna was seen was right after that mysterious phone call. And here's the problem. The guard who answered the phone never asked the caller's name. He had no idea who Donna had been talking to. Donna herself made a critical mistake. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. She just walked away and disappeared. But right away, investigators had to consider, could this have been another guard? Green Haven was an overcrowded high-security prison. Privacy was nearly impossible. For someone to commit a crime like this, they would need access, seclusion, the ability to move freely. That sounded a lot more like a prison guard than an inmate. And that's where investigators started. It didn't take long to uncover that some of Green Haven's guards were involved in illegal activity. Just 2 weeks before Donna's murder, a report had surfaced, exposing a quid pro quo system between officers and inmates. Some guards were smuggling in drugs, others were providing sex workers in exchange for cash and favors. It had been going on for years, and then women started working at Green Haven. For the first time, female officers were inside the facility. And a lot of them weren't interested in protecting a corrupt system. Donna, in particular, had a reputation for being by the book. The other guards, they hated her for it. She already filed a lawsuit once against the department. They saw her as a snitch, a threat, someone who could ruin everything. At the time of Donna's murder, she was last seen walking into the hospital corridor. The hallway led to the offices of Catholic chaplain Reverend Edward Donovan. One of the other people with access to those offices, the chaplain's assistant, an inmate named Lemuel Smith. And this is where the case takes a disturbing turn. Smith was not just another inmate. He was a convicted serial killer. He had already confessed to 5 murders. When forensic investigators analyzed the bite marks found on Donna's body, they realized something horrifying. The marks matched another victim from 4 years earlier. That victim had also been raped, strangled, mutilated, and bit. And the man responsible for that crime? Smith. He wasn't just another violent inmate. By the time he arrived at Green Haven, he was already a convicted serial killer, serving life for multiple murders. But what made his situation even more alarming was that he wasn't just another prisoner stuck in his cell all day. He had privileges, he had access, he had freedom that most inmates don't. That's because he had been appointed the chaplain's assistant. This position allowed him to move freely around the prison, enter and exit restricted areas, have access to private offices, and use the prison telephones, excuse me. That last part was huge. Remember, Donna was last seen answering a mysterious phone call before she disappeared. Investigators now had reason to believe that call came from inside the chaplain's office. And who had access to the phones there? Smith. As investigators pieced things together, forensic experts analyzed the bite marks found on Donna's body. And what they discovered was chilling. One of the experts, forensic odontologist Lemuel Smith, had seen these bite marks before. In fact, he had just used them in a lecture a few days earlier. The case? A murder from 4 years earlier. The victim, Marley Wilson. Like we mentioned, just like Donna, she'd been raped, strangled, and bitten. And the man responsible for that crime was Smith. This wasn't just a match. This was his signature. And there was one more key detail. Whoever had bitten Donna was missing a lower incisor. Smith, he was missing that exact same tooth. At this point, investigators were convinced they had their suspect. And when they searched the chaplain's offices, it became even clearer. Investigators combed through the chaplain's office, searching for anything that connected Smith to Donna's murder. Immediately, they noticed something suspicious. The floors had been mopped, but not well. Whoever cleaned up had done it in a hurry, using dirty water as if they were rushing to cover something up. Then, in a closet, they found several strands of blonde hair, consistent in color and length with Donna's hair. At the same time, investigators learned something interesting from Donna's husband, Leo. Before her murder, Donna had been planning to buy a handmade jewelry box from an inmate. It was supposed to be piano-shaped, specific design that only a few inmates were skilled enough to make. And guess what Lemuel Smith did in his spare time? He made piano-shaped jewelry boxes. This suggests that Donna may have been lured into the chaplain's office under false pretenses. Maybe she thought she was just picking up the jewelry box. Or maybe she sensed something was off and confronted Smith about the improper phone call. Either way, she walked into that office and never walked out. 3 weeks after Donna's murder, Smith was formally charged. The evidence against him was stacking up fast. The bite mark analysis matched his unique dental pattern. He had access to the chaplain's office where Donna was last seen. The chaplain was away on military leave, meaning Smith had the offices all to himself. And he had a history of violent attacks, including rape, strangulation, and mutilation. Investigators believed Smith had called Donna to the chaplain's office, possibly using the jewelry box as bait. Once she was inside, he attacked her, raped her, and strangled her and mutilated her body. But what set this case apart was his refusal to confess. Smith had admitted to multiple murders in the past, but this time, he denied everything. Smith's defense team fought hard to discredit the bite mark evidence. His lawyers argued that Donna's body had been put through a trash compactor, which could have distorted wounds and made them look like bite marks. They also pointed out that some forensic experts believed that bite mark analysis wasn't reliable, something that would become a much bigger debate in later years. But despite their efforts, the prosecution had enough evidence to convict them. So on April 21st, 1983, Lemuel Smith was found guilty of Donna Payant's murder. Because New York law at the time mandated the death penalty for inmates already serving life who killed again while incarcerated, he was sentenced to death. But here's where things get complicated. His death sentence was overturned on an appeal a year later. Instead of execution, he was placed in solitary confinement for the next 20 years. Here's the part that still haunts people. Smith has never admitted to killing Donna, even though the evidence is overwhelming. Even though his past crimes match the details of this one exactly, he refuses to confess, and that has led to some serious doubts about the case. So did he really do it? Donna's sister Judy doesn't believe Smith killed her. She believes that Donna was murdered by a prison guard, and that Smith was framed as a cover-up. Her theory? Donna found out about the corruption inside Green Haven, the drugs, the smuggling, the illegal favors being between guards and inmates, and that she was silenced before she could expose it. It sounds like a wild conspiracy, but at the time, it's hard to ignore the fact that Smith confessed to every other murder he committed. Why would he suddenly refuse to admit to this one? And if the bite mark evidence was really as unreliable as his defense team claimed, would the real killer still be out there? Today, Smith is 81 years old and serving life without parole at the Wynn Correctional Facility in New York. He has never been released, and he has never admitted guilt. Donna Payant remains the only female correctional officer in U.S. history to be murdered in the line of duty. This case is frustrating because on one hand, everything about Donna's murder fits Smith's MO perfectly. But on the other hand, why wouldn't he confess? Is it possible he wasn't the only one involved? Could a corrupt officer have set her up and dumped her body in the chaplain's office for Smith to take the fall? And if that's true, was justice ever really served? Let me know your thoughts on this case in the comments section below. What do you think happened? Who do you think actually murdered her? Let me know. Of course, give us the thumbs up if you like a video. Hit that subscribe button down below. The bell notification button to be notified of future videos. And of course, if you want to support the channel in a financial way, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TCNS. Everything you give goes right back into the channel, so we can upgrade our equipment, bring in new hosts, be able to pay them, and of course, take this show on the road. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you in our next video.